Well, what's going on, everybody? It's your boy, TheNextBigThing, and I am finally back at it again with a theory video. After well over a year of laying dormant, the legend has awakened from his royal slumber, laying waste to all that disagree with his theory analysis videos. But anyways, ladies and gentlemen, today we are going to be discussing Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse. You've seen the memes, you've seen the viral clips, the astronomically high ratings and appreciation for the film's art, choreography, and so much more. And I'm gonna just lay it out on the table and get something straight. This film was indeed fantastic, but from a person who literally watched both films in theaters and back-to-back before the making of this video, and I can confirm with certainty that it's not as great as the first part, but as most have mentioned, it's merely because it's a two-parter and the story technically hasn't ended yet. I mean, I'm sorry, but are you trying to convince me that there was a moment in Across the Spider-Verse that topped one of literally the greatest sequences in all of cinema? However, Daniel Pemberton, I don't know how you did it even better than the first film, but that soundtrack was absolute fire. Now, before I end up discussing about something entirely different as opposed to today's video, let's begin with within this film, it makes you truly think the real question at hand. What exactly qualifies as a good guy? We are. It was a question tossed around the film in some of the most subtle ways possible. I'll more than likely touch base more on the Prowler's place in all of this in another video, but as for right now, we're focusing on Miguel and his logic in all of this. And obviously, major spoilers ahead. Starting from the beginning, it's revealed within the film that Miles was never supposed to be bitten, and instead an alternate version of him was meant to be Spider-Man, as seen by the Spots flashback and the many hints thrown within the film, and especially the first one. I mean, when I went back to rewatching Into the Spider-Verse, I was appalled by just how many hints they dropped for people to discover the major secret. There was the fact that the spider that bit Miles would glitch before and even after its death, indicating that it clearly was not meant to be in that specific dimension. Both introductions for Into the Spider-Verse and Across the Spider-Verse showed the 42 ball. There was a 4 and a 2 laying beside Miles after falling down stories high in the first film, and though his uncle passes away, it is indeed canon for one of his parents to pass away as well. And lastly, there was the slight indication of Miles' colors converting from purple and green, resembling the Prowler's colors versus the Spider-Man's red and blue when first facing his universe's Peter Parker. Miguel reveals this to Miles mid-fight and ironically explains how he himself knows Miles' backstory more than anyone else does. And it's at this very moment where the film takes an even darker tone, as well as practically inverting everything Miles was taught since over a year ago when becoming Spider-Man. I mean, people are actually wondering why Miles ran. The dude got told that he was never meant to be the thing that some of those same people convinced him of being. Had a future vision of the death of his own father, which they tried to stop him from preventing because of some algorithmic belief that if Miles somehow saves his father, the fate of the multiverse is at stake. And there are so many plot holes in that grief-induced theory that I can't wait to lay it all out for you. Alright, first off, if anything, if Miles' colors changed, it more than likely means that of course he is practically meant to become the Prowler in his Earth dimension, or at least so he was. But right off the bat, that kind of just shows his fate simply changed right there and then, yet not a single other anomaly happened until the collider functioned. Which, by the way, is miles different, no pun intended, from what Miguel had pulled in his case. The dude literally attempted to replace his dead self with his own and live life in a completely alternate dimension. Of course, something is gonna collapse. Bro really thought that he was gonna be able to play this off like it was another episode of Rick and Morty. And it doesn't go on to say that Miles doesn't somewhat have a tragic event happen to him anyways. He clearly lost his uncle, who probably would not have died either if Miles hadn't gotten in the way. If anything, without Miles, there are a ton of things that became canon, yet no repercussions were made. A perfect example was a Peter B. Parker deciding to have a child with Mary Jane, Gwen's father deciding not to be sworn in as a captain, therefore officially saving her father more than likely. And now, as for the Indian Spider-Man's girlfriend's father, sure, there was some universe collapse, but did anyone else not just see it as a mere coincidence? I mean, did we all just forget about the amount of disruptance and damage that was done during Kingpin's attempt at bringing his family back in the original film? Yeah, The entire city was about to collapse because of his ways of using the collider. If anything, his dimension should be considered lucky for not suffering even worse than it could have. Now don't get me wrong, Miguel does have some leverage over Miles, and that's the fact that his Peter definitely was about to shut down the collider before he interrupted him. And due to the spider having bit the wrong Miles Morales, it did further escalate the damage done within Earth 42, because that Miles Morales probably didn't train with his uncle to become the Prowler until after his father's death. Since within his very room we notice a complete contrast in his surroundings as opposed to our Miles, being that he no longer takes much interest in art direction after his graffiti memoir for his father, and possibly decides to instead focus his energy more on saving whatever is left of the city in ruins. And once again, more on that and more than likely a different video. Trust me, I'm definitely talking about the other alternate Miles Morales. Now, another thing is that the Dimension Collider did cause creatures from other dimensions to leak into others they weren't meant for, but we gotta stop the cap and remember the catastrophe this moron created, okay? Doctor Strange was even out there struggling. Now, with all that being said, there is one major detail that I really wanted to bring up in this theory video, and it's what could potentially happen if Miles were to go through with his plan in saving his father in his dimension. Because according to Marvel Comics fanbase, there is an issue within the Ultimate Spider-Man comics where not his father dies, but yet his mother does, and it's supposedly the same dimension, Earth 1610. And if I was a betting man, it wouldn't be too surprising for the filmmakers to allow her death to instead happen in return, after her being the most understanding towards Miles, being the one who gives him the talk, and lastly, seems to have some idea of whether or not Miles is Spider-Man. Now, this doesn't necessarily have to pertain to the potential death of his parents and the fate of the multiverse, but there was this last crucial detail within the film that a lot of people with keen eyes noticed at first glance. Before Miles is assigned to meet up with a higher up in order for him to be interviewed into going into Princeton University, where the interviewer says,
"Can't have your cake and eat it too."
Miles then has a smart retort saying this,
"Unless you bake 2 cakes.
And later on in the film, Miguel says something quite similar to what she was saying.
You can't have it all, kid.
And when it's time for Miles to bring both cakes to his father's celebration and being sworn in as captain, notice how both cakes end up being destroyed. For all we know, this may be a hint showing the audience that Miles may in the end get an even worse future than the one he's trying to avoid, ending with the death of both of his parents or one of his parents and the demise of his dimension. And just the thought of the potential catastrophe that may lead into the next film, honestly it gets me excited, but it also gets me fearful because what is going to happen? But I guess for right now, this has been TNBT back at it again with another video. I really can't express to you all how it just really felt typing out the script for this video, because not only was I eager to make the video itself, but I honestly miss doing these type of videos. Real fans of me just know how much I absolutely love animation and concepts that truly make you think, and the combination for me personally is just astonishing to me. But with all that being said, it's been real, everyone, and I should catch you all in the next one. Peace.
Drop what you're doing and stop Spider-Man.
Oh my god, he's black!